A new Consumer Reports investigation out just this morning finds that there may be more mercury in canned tuna than you realize.
The FDA just quietly removed a massive tuna recall notice from their website. But the contaminated cans are still on grocery shelves right now. While everyone's focused on expiration dates, there's something far more dangerous lurking in 6 popular brands that could be sitting in your pantry at this very moment. You know what's funny? Bumble Bee sounds so innocent and cheerful, right? Like something that would pollinate your garden and make the world a better place. Well, turns out this particular bee might be stinging the ocean instead. Here's the thing about Bumble Bee. They're absolutely massive. One of the biggest tuna brands in America. But sometimes being the biggest kid on the block means you're also the biggest troublemaker. Greenpeace took a hard look at their practices and basically gave them a report card that would make your parents ground you for a month. The real problem? Traceability. That's a fancy way of saying, we have no clue where this fish actually came from. Bumble Bee has this thing called Trace My Catch. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? But critics say it's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. Not nearly enough. Then there's the fishing methods. Because they need to fill millions of cans, they often rely on long-line fishing. Think of it as the strip mining of the ocean. Sure, you catch lots of tuna, but you also accidentally snag turtles, sharks, and pretty much anything else swimming by. It's like trying to catch a specific person in a crowd by throwing a giant net over everyone. And here's where it gets really murky. Some of the vessels in their supply chain have been flagged for labor issues. We're talking about real people working in questionable conditions to get that affordable tuna to your grocery store shelf. But Bumble Bee isn't the only household name with some serious skeletons in their maritime closet. Well, if Bumble Bee made you think twice, wait until you hear about Chicken of the Sea. You know, the brand that had Jessica Simpson confused about whether it was chicken or fish? Turns out, the confusion doesn't stop there. Greenpeace ranked this major player well below ocean-safe standards. That's like getting a D- on your driving test. Technically, you showed up, but nobody's impressed. The real kicker? Their sustainability commitments are vaguer than my nephew's excuse for missing Sunday dinner. Here's what gets me fired up. Chicken of the Sea doesn't clearly commit to responsible fishing methods. When I buy tuna, I want to know it wasn't caught by some floating factory that treats the ocean like a strip mine. But this brand keeps their sourcing details locked up tighter than Fort Knox. Then there's the mercury issue. Some of their albacore varieties pack higher mercury levels compared to younger skipjack tuna. It's like choosing the oldest fish at the market. Sometimes age isn't wisdom. It's just accumulated heavy metals. The company's owned by Thai Union, which ties them to global supply chains where bycatch and labor issues remain messier than a toddler's spaghetti dinner. Sure, it's convenient and affordable. You can grab it at practically every grocery store from here to Timbuktu. But here's the thing. Just because something's popular doesn't make it right. Remember when everyone thought smoking was healthy? Most folks reach for Chicken of the Sea without realizing they're making trade-offs. Environmental impact, sustainability concerns, potential health risks, it all adds up. Speaking of adding up, our next brand takes these problems to a whole new level. StarKist sits at the top of the tuna food chain when it comes to market share. You've probably grabbed their iconic cans without thinking twice about it. Well, here's something that might make you pause next time you're in the grocery aisle. Greenpeace basically handed StarKist the worst report card among major tuna brands. We're talking dead last place in sustainability rankings. That's like being voted most likely to ignore ocean health in the seafood yearbook. Not exactly the trophy you want on your shelf. The real kicker? Their corporate responsibility statements read like a politician's campaign promises. Lots of fancy words, zero concrete action. When pressed about preventing bycatch or supporting fair labor practices, StarKist's responses are vaguer than a weather forecast. "We're committed to doing better" doesn't actually tell us what they're doing differently. But here's where it gets interesting. Their massive scale means they're influencing how millions of pounds of tuna get caught every year. Think of it like this. If StarKist was a driver, they'd be steering an 18-wheeler while texting. The impact of any poor decisions gets magnified across entire ocean ecosystems. Then there's their reliance on industrial fishing methods. Longline fishing might sound harmless, but it's basically like setting up a 50-mile buffet line that accidentally invites sharks, turtles, and dolphins to their final meal. Not exactly the guest list you want at your seafood party. Plus, some of their products come packed in vegetable broth or oils that aren't doing your health any favors. It's like buying a sports car and filling it with low-grade gasoline. Speaking of questionable choices, wait until you hear about the next brand that's hiding in plain sight at your local Walmart. Now, here's where things get really sketchy. Great Value Tuna. You know, Walmart's house brand that costs about as much as a pack of gum. Look, I get it. We've all been there, standing in that fluorescent-lit aisle, wallet feeling lighter than we'd like, thinking, tuna is tuna, right? Well, not exactly. According to Greenpeace's Ocean Safe rankings, Great Value scores about as well as a fish trying to climb a tree. The problem? Nobody really knows where this stuff comes from. And I mean nobody. The brand provides almost zero information about which boats caught the fish, what species you're actually eating, or how they nabbed it in the first place. It's like buying a mystery meat sandwich. Except the mystery involves the entire ocean. But here's the kicker. When you're focused purely on rock-bottom prices, something's gotta give. And what gives is usually the stuff we can't see. We're talking high-volume fisheries that prioritize quantity over, well, everything else. Think of it this way. If someone's selling you a designer watch for $5, you'd probably ask some questions, right? Same logic applies here. The transparency issue isn't just annoying, it's actually problematic. Without knowing the source, you can't evaluate whether the fishing methods harm other sea creatures or if the workers are treated fairly. It's like playing environmental roulette every time you crack open a can. Sure, your grocery bill stays manageable, but the hidden costs? Those might be steeper than you think. And speaking of costs, wait until you hear what I discovered about Costco's supposedly premium house brand. Now let's talk about Kirkland's signature tuna from Costco. You know, the one sitting in that massive warehouse next to the 48-pack of toilet paper you definitely didn't need but bought anyway. Here's the thing about Costco's private label. Everyone assumes bigger means better oversight. Well, that's not exactly how it works with tuna sourcing. According to Progressive Grocer referencing Greenpeace data, Kirkland's Ocean Safe credentials are shakier than you'd expect from America's favorite wholesale club. Makes sense, right? When you're buying tuna by the shipping container, it's tough to be picky about which boats caught your fish. The problem is volume. Costco moves so much tuna that they source from multiple fisheries across different regions. That's like trying to quality control every ingredient when you're cooking for a small army. Something's bound to slip through the cracks. And here's what really gets me. The variability factor. One might come from a responsible fishery, while the next could be from somewhere with questionable bycatch practices. It's basically tuna roulette, but with dolphins and sea turtles at stake. Then there's the Mercury concern, especially with their albacore varieties. For frequent tuna eaters, and let's be honest, when you buy 12 cans at once from Costco, you're probably eating it regularly. That inconsistency becomes a real issue. Don't get me wrong, the value is undeniable. But when your business model prioritizes moving massive quantities at rock-bottom prices, environmental integrity sometimes takes a back seat to profit margins. Speaking of companies that flip that script entirely, let me tell you about brands that actually test every single fish for mercury. Now, here's where things get really sketchy. Discount tuna brands with zero transparency. You know those super cheap cans sitting on the bottom shelf? The ones with names like Portside that sound like they were named by someone's cousin Larry? Well, there's a reason they're so affordable. These brands treat transparency like it's optional homework. Good luck figuring out where your tuna actually came from. Was it caught by a responsible fishing boat off the coast of California? Or did it come from some questionable operation that treats the ocean like their personal garbage disposal? Makes sense, right? When you're paying rock-bottom prices, something's gotta give. But here's the kicker. Without proper sourcing information, you're basically playing Russian roulette with your dinner. These discount brands might source from fisheries that use destructive methods, contributing to bycatch that harms dolphins, turtles, and sharks. And the quality? Well, let's just say consistency isn't their strong suit. One can might have decent skipjack. The next could contain mystery fish that's been sitting in a warehouse since the Clinton administration. The texture can vary wildly, too. Sometimes it's fine, other times it's mushier than overcooked pasta at your nephew's first apartment. Look, I get it. We all love saving money. But when brands don't publicly emphasize mercury testing or sustainable sourcing, you're left completely in the dark about what you're actually eating. It's like buying a used car without looking under the hood. Sure, it might run fine, but do you really want to find out the hard way? Speaking of finding out the hard way, let me tell you about the brands that actually test every single fish for mercury. Now, here's where things get interesting. Safe Catch doesn't just slap a low mercury sticker on their cans and call it a day. They actually test every single fish that goes into their products. Every single one. While other brands might test a random sample from a batch of 10,000 fish, Safe Catch uses a rapid testing method on each tuna individually. It's like having a personal bodyguard for your mercury levels. Their Elite line takes this obsession even further. They hold themselves to mercury limits that are 10 times stricter than what the FDA requires. Think about that for a second. The government says this level is safe, and Safe Catch responds with, "Thanks, but we'll do 10 times better." It's the nutritional equivalent of your grandmother washing already clean dishes. The National Advertising Division actually reviewed their claims and confirmed they really do test every fish. So when they say it on the label, they're not just hoping you'll believe them. But here's what really sets them apart. They hand-fillet each tuna and slow cook it without any fillers. No mysterious vegetable broth or sketchy additives. Just tuna doing what tuna does best. Yes, you'll pay more than you would for that discount brand sitting next to it on the shelf. But consider this. Would you rather save $3 now, or save yourself from potential health issues later? Your brain cells will thank you, especially if you're pregnant, elderly, or just someone who prefers their seafood without a side of heavy metals. Speaking of sustainable sourcing, our next brand takes a completely different approach to keeping both you and the ocean healthy. Here's the second brand that's actually worth your money: Wild Planet. And let me tell you why this company is like that one friend who always follows through on their promises. Wild Planet sources 100% of its tuna from pole and line, troll, or hand-line fisheries. These are fishing methods that have significantly lower bycatch than those industrial long-line operations. Think of it like fishing with a fishing rod versus throwing a massive net. Way more precise, way less collateral damage. But here's where it gets really impressive. Every lot code is traceable. Wild Planet provides complete traceability from the fishing vessel all the way to your can. You can literally track your tuna's journey like it's a FedEx package. The Mercury testing? Outstanding. Their skipjack averages around 0.067 parts per million, and albacore averages roughly 0.17 parts per million. That's much lower than most conventional brands you'll find at the grocery store. Well, there's a smart reason for these low numbers. By focusing on younger, surface fish for both skipjack and albacore, they naturally limit mercury content. Older fish accumulate more mercury over time. It's basic biology. And the weird part is how seriously they take ethics. Wild Planet actively avoids vessels that Greenpeace has blacklisted. They're not just talking about sustainability, they're actually doing something about it. For consumers wanting both environmental responsibility and relatively low mercury exposure, Wild Planet hits that sweet spot. Sure, it costs more than the bargain brands, but you're paying for peace of mind and actual quality control. But there's one more brand that takes things even further with their fishing methods. Now, for the third and final brand you can actually trust with your family's health. American Tuna doesn't mess around when it comes to catching fish the right way. They use pole and line fishing exclusively. That's basically the fishing equivalent of using a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer. One fisherman, one pole, one fish at a time. Well, maybe not that dramatic, but you get the idea. Here's what makes this approach brilliant. When you're catching tuna one by one with a fishing pole, you're not accidentally scooping up dolphins, sea turtles, or that poor shark who was just minding his own business. It's like the difference between carefully picking apples from a tree versus shaking the whole thing until everything falls down, including the neighbor's cat. Greenpeace ranked American Tuna near the top for sustainability, and honestly, they earned it. The company takes traceability so seriously that you can actually track your tuna back to the specific boat that caught it. That's more transparency than most politicians offer about their lunch plans. But here's the kicker. They also prioritize worker welfare in their supply chain. While other brands might turn a blind eye to labor issues, American Tuna actually cares about the people catching your dinner. Revolutionary concept, right? Sure, you'll pay more than you would for that mystery tuna at the discount store. Think of it as an investment in your health and the ocean's future. Plus, when you're 65 and still sharp as a tack because you avoided mercury poisoning, you'll thank yourself. American Tuna proves that doing things right doesn't have to be complicated. Just expensive enough to keep the corner cutters away.